The three hidden social dynamics that decide who gets power. There is a reason you feel like power slips through your fingers, even when you are smart enough, capable enough, and deeply aware of the world around you. It's not because you're weak, it's not because you lack confidence, and it's definitely not because you don't want power. It's because, long before adulthood, you learned that being powerful was dangerous. Being seen meant being targeted. Speaking up meant punishment. Wanting things made you too much. Shining made others uncomfortable, so you shrank. Quietly, strategically, instinctively, to survive. You became the person who reads the room before speaking, who senses tension before anyone else, who anticipates danger the way others anticipate weather. You became emotionally perceptive, hypertuned, deeply aware, and ironically, that sensitivity, the very tool that once kept you safe, is now the thing limiting your power. This is the core paradox of your life. The instinct that kept you safe is the instinct that now keeps you small. You know how to avoid harm, but no one ever taught you how to step into influence, how to hold your ground, how to be felt, not just understood, because inside your nervous system, visibility still equals danger, and invisibility still equals safety. This is why some people rise while others remain invisible. Power isn't about dominance. Power is shaped by the unconscious rules we learned at the very beginning. Today, we reveal the three hidden social dynamics that decide who gets power, and why people like you stay locked out of it, not because you're unworthy, but because you were taught that claiming power was a threat to your survival. 1. Hypervigilance. Allogerif is a trauma response. Your brain scans for danger, constantly. It rewires the fear center. It prioritizes avoidance over assertiveness. A hypervigilant child becomes an adult who overthinks how people perceive them, shrinks to avoid conflict, and monitors others more than expressing themselves. Hypervigilance steals power because your focus is always outward, never inward. 2 is when a child takes on adult responsibilities, emotionally or practically. You learn that others' needs matter more than your own. In adulthood, this becomes giving too much, apologizing too fast, fixing problems that aren't yours, and staying silent to maintain peace. Parentified children become the glue in relationships, but glue rarely gets acknowledgement or influence. 3. Avoidant attachment. Avoidant attachment forms when caregivers are inconsistent or overwhelming. You learn that needing others is unsafe. As an adult, this becomes withdrawal instead of assertion, discomfort with praise, fear of visibility, and hesitation to speak up. Avoidant attachment erodes power because it suppresses vulnerability, and vulnerability is the foundation of influence. You are not just quiet, you are not just shy, you are adapting brilliantly to a world that once taught you that power was dangerous, but now, these adaptations no longer protect you, they confine you. And to understand power, we must face the emotional cost of avoiding it. The emotional cost. The heaviest burden isn't fear, it is grief, the grief of holding back brilliant ideas so you wouldn't upset anyone, the grief of being overlooked in rooms where you deserve to be heard, the grief of watching less capable people rise because you stayed careful, cautious, invisible, the grief of minimizing your needs so others could stay comfortable. The grief of knowing your potential and feeling it suffocate quietly inside you. This grief is invisible, private, wordless, but it is real. You doubt your own perceptions, you silence your anger, you detach from your desires, you feel guilt for wanting more, shame for outgrowing people, resentment for being underestimated. Carl Jung once said, "The world will ask you who you are, and if you don't know, the world will tell you." For those who never felt allowed to claim power, the world doesn't ask. It decides, it assigns, it puts them in background roles. And beneath all of it, there is one ancient fear. If I take up space, someone will punish me. Your body remembers every moment you were silenced, every moment you were shamed, ignored, dismissed, overpowered. You resist power, not because you lack ambition, but because ambition was paired with danger. But your story doesn't end there. Now, you finally get to see the truth about power. How it shows up in adulthood. People who learn to stay small develop predictable patterns. You hesitate before speaking. Even when you're right, you prioritize harmony over honesty, because conflict still feels dangerous. You overexpress as if your needs require justification. You choose supportive roles over leadership, not due to lack of skill, but because leadership feels exposed. Praise makes you uncomfortable. Visibility feels unsafe. You wait to be chosen instead of stepping forward. These aren't personality traits. These are coping strategies. You didn't become Easy. When you learned compliance, you didn't become independent. You learned not to rely on anyone. You didn't become private. You learned that vulnerability was dangerous. Begins with naming these patterns without shame and without self-blame. You survived your childhood, but adulthood is not for surviving. It is for living, healing, and reclaiming power. Real power is not dominance, not aggression, not control. Real power is inhabiting yourself fully, without shrinking, without apologizing, without fear. Healing begins slowly, softly, internally. 1. Inner child reparenting you. Remind the younger you that taking up space is safe now. You comfort them, you update their understanding of the world. 2. Shadow work. You reclaim the parts you rejected. Your anger, ambition, desire, intensity. These parts aren't dangerous, they are power. 3. Choosing softness. Softness is not weakness. Softness is presence. Softness is authenticity. As Lao Tzu wrote, the soft overcomes the hard. You don't gain power by becoming harder. You gain power by becoming whole. The world doesn't need a louder version of you. It needs a truer version. A version that speaks without waiting for permission, stands without shrinking, feels without apologizing, claims what is theirs without guilt, and leads without fear. You were never lacking power. You were lacking safety. And now, you are safe enough to reclaim what was always yours. If this message resonates, share it. Subscribe not to be fixed, but to become whole, because your story is not about becoming stronger, but finally remembering your strength.